Hello, everyone. I'm making those who are scheduled to speak at some point in the meeting co-hosts, so you can control your you can unmute and mute yourselves right away if it's your turn to speak. Thank you.
Dr. Martin, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, sir.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry I was late in making you co-host, Mr. Sandoval.
I got you. Thank you. How are you guys all doing?
Pretty good, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, Delton. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Thank you. It's nice to see your picture instead of that frozen
Oh,
picture you have. At least I always have to check to see if you're breathing.
luckily, I still am. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Well, how about me, Miss Hunt?
It's also good to see you, Steve.
No, I was going to give you a frozen picture. There you go.
Well, yeah, that's all I see in my students all the time. And then they tell me I'm frozen. And I says, soon, soon. I like that picture. That's an old picture behind you.
That's my grandmother. Yeah, that's my grandma.
Wow.
She's from, she was born in Tularosa, but she lived in Saboyeta.
Wow. I
Yeah.
recognize the hairdo.
I had one like that a while ago.
Okay, we'll believe you. So how old was she?
In that picture, I think she was like in her early 20s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Year? I don't want to date myself, but what year was that?
She was born in 21, so that would have been in 1940 or so.
Oh, okay. Then I'm not that old. So
No.
dating myself. Well, hello there, gentlemen.
Hello. She didn't hear you. I had it muted. Glad.
Hello, Emily.
Hello there, Ron. I'll show my picture in a minute. I was trying to hide my white hair, but it's not working.
Black and white, huh?
Yeah, I showed my white hair to my kids and say, this is what you did. When I started school, my hair was brown. Here I am. Howdy, everybody. The guy, Esteban, was very helpful.
Oh, good.
Mr. Max, I was able to get into my GCCS laptop as well, but I'm using that one so I can see that I couldn't print. I still couldn't print. So I'm going to use that one to show the documents that Emily sent me.
Yeah, we have to update the password every once in a while. That just happened to me today.
Well, you know, us old people that aren't computer literate, that happens a lot. Hold on, I gotta get my. Did I have to use my wireless mouse?
No.
Max.
Hello.
Hi. I wanted to let you know that we were able to get our certificates out to the staff today, and they were so appreciative. So they wanted me to just express their gratitude and say thank you for the certificates and the recognition.
Thank you. Well, they're very, very much deserved. Those of you who don't know, that was Jerry Nodal, a transportation lead, and we gave certificates to all the bus drivers and transportation crew. We do appreciate them.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, I watched them from my home as they're delivering meals, and I worry about them just like the cafeteria staff and stuff, and they do a pretty good job of getting those kids their meals and getting them home, and it's they have it down on how to serve the students. And you guys have to know, Jerry, your bus drivers and then the kitchen staff, we are feeding the communities of Laguna and Acoma and Cebolleta, because all the other schools have been unable to do meal distribution. So thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you. You know, we've been fortunate. We were able to pair everybody up. So they were a strong team before, but they are stronger than ever now. So they've really formed those bonds, and that teamwork is there. So they're working really hard, and you know, we're just prepared to do whatever we need to do.
Well, let me tell you, if it wasn't for you guys as the kitchen staff, our children wouldn't be getting the meals today. So I can't tell you how heartfelt that is, that the two departments are still able to do that. Otherwise, a lot of our students here on both Laguna and Acoma might be going hungry.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I knew that.
I barely saw it now. We send it at 5:26. Got a couple of minutes.
I think Dion is on. Good evening, Dion.
Good afternoon, good evening. How are you all doing?
We're doing pretty good. It's not
I like-
afternoon anymore, sir.
Well, in my neck of the woods, it's still afternoon, Emily. Max, you doing okay? Ron?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I see Ron's sporting that pirate shirt today. Pirate red.
That's why you're the only one that got it so far. No, I'm just kidding.
Want to get the names of the people that are citizens to address the board? Do you have them?
Oh, I don't have them.
I don't know who they are.
Was Dr. Guy coming?
He's on.
Oh, he is? Okay.
And I think both Dr. Archambault and Richard are on.
Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't have the full.
Are we ready?
Is it time? Oh, it's that time.
Yep, 5:30.
We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:30. Let's stand for the pledge tonight. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Ron Ortiz,
Here.
Richard Jones,
I'm here.
Dion Sandoval,
Here.
Emily Hunt Bailey,
Here.
Dr. Guy Archambault,
You're muted, Dr. Guy.
Thank you, Emily. I'm here.
Adoption of agenda, Mr. Perez, and your recommendation.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, Board. I do recommend that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Need a motion tonight?
So moved.
Motion by Emily, need a second?
Second.
By Dion? Is that Dion?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, adoption of minutes, Superintendent Perez, January 14th and January 19th of 2021. Your recommendation?
Mr. President, Board, I recommend that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Okay, need a motion for the minutes tonight?
Which one?
So moved.
Motion by Emily, need a second?
Second.
Second by Dion, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Recognitions tonight, Superintendent Perez.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Board, we haven't put out anybody specific, but once again, I need to acknowledge all the frontline folks that have been working over the past several months, which you know that we've recognized the cooks, custodians, food services, transportation, the many people we have to thank. The one thing I'd like to add this evening, and we'll continue honoring all of the good people we have working out there, but tonight, a special recognition, since we have all of them here this evening, is the leadership at the school sites. Their hard work should not go unrecognized. We have all of our principals and assistant principals that are doing everything they can to keep their schools running smoothly and organized and moving forward. And I think that many times their hard work is not always recognized behind the scenes. So I'd like to just know that for Mr. President, Board, that I this evening I acknowledge the leadership of the principals and assistant principals at each school site. Of course, you know, we have the teachers that are always number one in the front and helping us do what we were hired to do. But alongside that, we always want to recognize the leadership. So important. So anyway, that's what I have, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Perez. Citizens to address the board tonight, we have three that want to address the board. I just want to give you a little bit of instruction. We'll allow you 3 minutes to address the board. And I just want you to remember that the board will not respond to any comments or questions that you may have, but we will direct our superintendent with your concerns and your questions, and he will get back with you in a timely manner. Tonight, addressing the board is Melody Bratzel. Are you there?
I'm here, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, Superintendent Perez, board members, and fellow colleagues. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of our students returning to school in the hybrid setting. I will be the first teacher to say that teaching in a hybrid setting is hard work, probably double the work. But I feel that even though it's difficult, it is the best option that we have right now. All students deserve the choice to attend school and to learn in person. My personal choice would be to have 100% of my students in class, but I know that right now that's not an option. Anyone that knows me knows that I want to do my job to the best of my ability, and no matter how hard I try, I feel like I'm not reaching all of my students. Let me tell you a few of the reasons that I am in favor of hybrid. It is my job as a second grade teacher to complete the foundation that is being built in kindergarten and first grade. I have to fill in the gaps and make sure that my students have a solid educational foundation to build on for the rest of their educational career. I have to make sure that my students are prepared for the huge transition between second and third grade. With virtual learning, I feel that I'm not able to prepare my students for several reasons. Not all of my students have the internet. We have devices, but not the internet. There are many distractions at home. The internet connection is unstable. Just yesterday, they were kicked off over and over and over again. I had to stop. I had to reteach. I had to even forego some of the teaching because some of them weren't there and they couldn't hear. I have really good parents, but I do have some that I don't have support from. I have one parent that had to quit his job because they told him you have to be back by a certain date. He said, I can't be back. I have kids here at home. He had to quit. It's hard to develop a strong personal relationship with my students, which I hold that very high and something that you have to do in order to get them to perform for you and to work for you. Many say virtual learning is consistent, but yesterday was proof that it's not consistent. I have students leaving and joining the class all the time. I try to prepare my students the night before, but still in class, they're not prepared. Some of my students are not performing well on the test. 50% of my students in the Math iReady test are not on grade level. And these scores are not due to my lack of work. I work from school every day. I deliver at home. I take things to their house. I deliver at school. I do absolutely everything that I can do, but I'm just so frustrated. 11 of my students want to come back when we come back to school, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. Please allow my students to return to school in person. I still have time to make a difference in their lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melody. Vanessa Pena, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Good evening, board members, staff members. So I am Vanessa Pena for the ones who don't know me. I have been with this school district for 14 years and I've been a kindergarten teacher for 10 years. I am here to advocate a voice for my 5-year-olds. My 5-year-old kindergartners need to be in the classroom. It is so hard to teach 5-year-olds how to read, how to do their letter sounds, how to blend words together, how to count, how to do all our hands-on stuff over virtual learning. It is hard to get them to understand that kindergarten is the foundation that builds them up higher and higher. We have to teach them how to follow rules. We have to teach them social skills. We have to teach them consequences. And we can't do that with them not in front of us. Just like Ms. Bratzel said, I would love 100% of my kids back, but I know that's not the reality of it. I know that we did get them back for about 4 to 5 weeks, and it was the best 4 to 5 weeks ever. I had gains, I had perfect attendance, I had everything that a teacher would dream of. But now that we're virtual, half my class doesn't show up. And it's not because they don't have devices, they all have devices. Again, it's lack of internet, lack of parents being able to be home to do it. I have several parents that hold full-time jobs and they can't do it. So they're left with grandparents or they're left with babysitters or at daycares. And if you put a child on virtual learning at a daycare, you get every other noise in the background. So that's too much distraction for them. I want my kindergartners in my class and I need them in my class. For those 4 weeks, they were doing Lexia. All of them were, even my ones that chose to stay virtual, they were all doing Lexia. They were all doing their testing. And now I don't have very many of them doing any of that. I got 3 out of 18 that are constantly doing iReady or Lexia. That's only 3 out of 18. So I know that people want the virtual to be consistent, but again, like Ms. Bratzel said, it's not. We have lagging in the internet. We're trying to teach the kids their letter sounds and they can't hear us because there's lagging in it. So how are these kindergartners going to read? How are they going to be ready for first grade? By January of every year, I usually have, with the exception of 1 to 2 students, reading. I even have students that will start AR, and AR is not a requirement in kindergarten. I just sent out 7 middle of the year retention forms because I have 7 that are not learning anything. And again, I am doing everything I can. I chose to work from the school in the beginning, and then I got my kids back hybrid, and then I got them taken back away. So I chose to work from home because it became very depressing to go into an empty classroom setting, especially after I was able to have some of them there. I know that a lot of teachers are fearing this COVID. I know that. I know that we don't know what's going to happen with it, but we are educators. We signed up for this job. We need to do for these kids. And I know that if we were given the choice to work from home, and we're all grateful for that, but we were also told, we also signed a paper stating that when the district needs us to return, we return. And I'm ready to return. And I want my kids there with me. I don't know what more I can do or say. I invite all board members all the time to sit in on my classes. I will email you my Zoom sessions so you can be a part of it. I want you to see the troubles that we have. I want you to see the struggling kids. And I have parent testimonials that they don't have social skills because in kindergarten, you make friends. You start doing all that. So I'm asking to please put us back in the classroom and let me be the teacher that I know how to be. Because right now, I don't feel like a teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Adriana Martinez, are you there?
I'm here. Good evening, board members and community members. My name is Adriana Martinez. I've been teaching kindergarten for 9 years at Mesa View. I'm also speaking to move to the hybrid model. Just to give you guys some demographics of my virtual classroom, I have 19 students. 15 out of those 19 log into Zoom classes daily and one-on-ones. I have 1 student who's inconsistent in logging in. 3 of those 15 use a phone to log in, so they're unable to consistently use Lexia, iStation, and iReady Math. So we have hardly any computer data on them. 3 of my students haven't had devices until today. I've never met 2 of those students. 1 of those 3 attended hybrid in the fall, and she is a monolingual Spanish speaker, and so is her entire family. Overall, right now, I have 53% of my kids on grade level, which is 10 out of the 19. I have 26% that are significantly below grade level, which is 5 out of my 19. And I have 21% of my kids that I have no idea where they are at. Never in my 9 years have I ever had a group of students that I know nothing about. So we're talking about retention, we're talking about filling out SATs, we're talking about moving them to first grade, and how can we do that when we have no idea who these kids are? So some are saying, some teachers, some community members are saying that it's not going to make a difference going to hybrid now. It's almost 4th quarter, this year is a wash. But we've spent this year being technology workers, Zoom pros, Google Classroom monitors, copy makers, coordinators, group message gurus. And you'll notice that in that list of things, I didn't mention teacher. And although we'll still have to be all of those things, and the simple fact that hybrid is double the work for us, we feel like it's worth it. My kids, my students are worth it. So we're asking for the opportunity to be teachers. So thank you for taking our feelings into consideration when reevaluating the plan and letting us speak tonight.
Thank you, Adriana. And thank you, you guys that addressed the board. We appreciate your comments, and thank you again. Tonight, presentations. Before I turn it over to Superintendent Perez, I'd like to ask if we can hold any comments or questions until the presentations are done. If we can do that, please, I'd appreciate that. Superintendent Perez, presentations tonight.
Okay, yeah, Mr. President, Board, thank you. The first item, we all know how important these days, always is, but more these days, the social emotional learning aspect of everything we do is. We do have some quality counselors throughout the district, and they have been meeting. And we have Ms. Delise Jones here this evening to just give us an update on what is going on in the counseling world throughout the district. So with social emotional learning, Ms. Delise Jones.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis, community members. I do want to share my screen, and Mr. Martin, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Grants Cibola County Schools Counseling and Nursing Group has been meeting twice a month for more than 2 years. And we've been doing various things. And so I would like to go over a couple of things, and then 3 of the counselors are going to go over some things that they're doing presently. So I want to speak to you about things that we've been doing and things that we are continuing to plan to do. The Counseling and Nursing Group has developed self-injury and suicide prevention, intervention, and post-vention handbook. It is very prescriptive, and it is a roadmap for the counselors and the principals to use at their schools. After next week, we will have 4 Grant Cibola County Schools counselors that will be certified trainers with QPR, with the QPR Institute. And this institute provides innovative, practical, and proven suicide prevention training. We already have 2 staff members that have completed the training and are full trainers at this time. And then we will, as I said, have 2 more certified after next week. They will be able to train any and all of our other staff members. We are planning to have a representative from each school participate in a certificate online program, and it is the people will be learning how to develop social emotional skills and self-regulations for the students. I know that some people are already signed up for that certificate program. We do have a meeting scheduled for Friday, this coming Friday, the 5th, to interview a possible social emotional consultant. And this consultant does come highly qualified. And then additionally, the support staff, the counselors and the nurses have been working continuously to help the students, the staff members, and the families to do various things within their school and within their community. I do have to say that we're very thankful that this group has started getting together. The counselors have really formed a bond with one another. They depend on one another. They help one another. And it is an excellent thing for our school, for our schools. The first person that we'll have share a little bit about what's going on at her school is Miss Danielle Atencio from Milan Elementary School.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Atencio. I'm the school counselor at Milan Elementary. As far as the elementary counselors, we have been providing social emotional learning activities through one-on-one cases, small group, and large group. The elementary counselors have a live Google document that we all contribute to and share ideas for different activities that we are doing. We also meet every 2 weeks and share ideas during that meeting. There are teachers that have been using SEL activities throughout their daily schedules as well. For example, I was in a first grade classroom and the teacher was doing an activity with the class while they were working on their morning journal. The writing prompt for that day was, "When I'm feeling stressed, I can blank." Before starting, the teacher talked about what being stressed was and what feelings you may have when you are stressed. After that, the students were done writing, they were able to share out and discuss with their class. Another big task that we all have taken on is to contact families for teachers or for school staff. Whether this is reaching out due to a child not being online, assisting to help that student or their family with online learning, or simply reaching out for encouragement to the family and seeing how we can help make this online learning process successful for them. I'll now hand it over to Ms. Debbie Sanchez.
Good evening, board members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My name is Debbie Sanchez, and I am the counselor at Cubero and Cebolleta Elementary Schools. I was with the district before as a high school counselor, and so it has been fun and interesting going to the kindergarten through sixth graders. Like Danielle said earlier, everything that she mentioned are things that are also done at Cubero and Cebolleta, calling parents, meeting with teachers, etc. And I'm sure that's what all the other counselors are doing in the other schools. But what I have started doing are the social and emotional classes. Every teacher from K through 6 have the classroom lessons. I post them on their Google Classroom so that they are able to look at the lesson. The videos are there if they want to replay them. And in fact, I have had parents ask me if they can log on and watch a video again because they thought it was inspiring. And I said yes, because it is on every teacher's Google Classroom. I have had students email me thanking me for the day's lesson, so they are getting out. And every month I have a different theme, but the month of January was basically dealing with feelings because everyone right now is in an emotional state. And so they're all age appropriate videos. So for the kindergarten and first graders, I show a set of videos, a different video than I do the 4th through 6th graders. The videos are all dealing, the first week, the first week dealt with identifying feelings and accepting and working toward positive feelings. Then we dealt with positive self-talk, giving yourself the positive self-talk. After that, we learned about coping skills. What were coping skills, what we can do, what we shouldn't do. And then we talked about anger management. So like I said, every week it's age appropriate. The kindergartens have a different lesson than the 6th graders, but they're all dealing with coping and emotions and feelings that are beneficial. And like I said, I have had parents comment that they were inspired, that they wanted more printouts and so forth. So it is very successful. And I got a lot of tips from my colleagues, like what's mentioned earlier, we all work well together. I hadn't been in the classroom teaching for over 30 years. I used to teach at Grants High School way back. Right, Richard Jones, and right, Dion? I was your teacher at one time.
We still remember you.
Anyway, so teaching to the elementary students was quite a challenge. So my colleagues helped me, every single one from every single school in Grants, because I asked their advice, what to do and how to do it, how to lower myself from high school to elementary. And we have a great counseling team because we all work together. Like Delise said, we put together the suicide book. We meet with the team every 2 weeks, and we're coming up with some great ideas that are going to be put together in the fall, or in the few weeks on how to bond the schools together. But anyway, thank you for listening. And like was mentioned earlier by another teacher, you are welcome to contact me and look at the videos or join the classroom and see how the kids are reacting. Everyone is welcome to do that. Thank you and have a good evening.
Hello, President Ortiz, board members, and Mr. Perez. My name is Linda Sanchez. I'm the Student Success Advisor at Los Alamitos Middle School. And tonight I'm here to talk to you a little bit about our social emotional learning classrooms that we have set up. Grants High School and Laguna Acoma Senior High School have one set up for them. And then we built one for Los Alamitos Middle School and Laguna Acoma Junior High. And so I'm really excited to be able to share our collaborative efforts that we've been doing between all of the counselors in the district. And we decided that we needed a platform that the students were familiar with. So we created Google Classroom specifically for social emotional learning. And tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what our focus is. And so our focus, of course, is on social emotional learning for our students. We're providing them with resources for social emotional learning. And another thing that's happening is since the high school has their Google Classroom set up with both schools, and then the middle school has one set up for both middle school and junior high. It's a huge collaborative effort that all the counselors can help all the students from both schools. And I appreciate that so much, since I'm the only one at Los Alamitos. We're short a counselor. And so it's going to be really nice that we have I can have Miss Lico and Mr. Jallo helping me with that. So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit, is about what we're doing in the middle school, Google Classroom for social emotional learning. It looks like Delise lost the slide, or her computer died or something, but anyway, it's a safe space for all our students. We've posted meditation videos to help them learn how to meditate and take a breath and just take a break. We're using Nearpod, so we're also using applications that some of their teachers are using in the classroom as well. So we're also posting brain games. It's just, again, applications that they've been using in their classrooms, like Kahoot and GymKit, and it includes brain games and social emotional learning games. We want it to be something more fun and not so much them having to do assignments. It's for them to take a break. We're also giving them resources for mental health, and they can share that with their parents as well. Again, we decided as a group that social emotional learning was a great need in our district for our students, and we felt like this was a great tool that we were going to be able to use even beyond virtual learning. We can continue using these programs and the things that we're promoting for social emotional learning into the future, and it'll be something that the students can look forward to, and they'll get to work with counselors from other schools. They get to collaborate with peers from other schools and make new friends. And so we're hoping that it works out and that we can continue doing it even in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Delise Jones, are you on? She must have got dropped off. She's getting back in now.
While she's getting back in, can I ask a question of the counselors?
Sure, go ahead, Emily.
Could you share some of those links with us that you're watching or that you're using in the classrooms? And is the content on there that, I guess I don't know how to phrase this, the content is there where the kids, the students that view it can understand it on their own, or does it need adult supervision? Or do they need adult supervision?
So I can answer for the elementary students. I have a Google Classroom set up, and I will send all of you that link. And for my stuff, it is all elementary aged approved. So as far as yoga, it's for kids. When I do meditation, it's brought down to their level.
Okay, so you think that even the older groups might get it might be a welcome distraction for them to watch the videos too? Like maybe 4th, 5th, 6th graders?
I think so. So it's pretty broad, but there are some things that I have more for the lower grades, and then I also try to disperse it for the upper grades also.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, Board, I think we lost Delise through here somehow, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on if she wants to jump on, if that's okay with you. Well, if we can move on to the next time. Thank you, counselors, Ms. Delise Jones. Appreciate all the work, important work, and it definitely fits in with the mix of all the challenges we're going through. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so this is we have a higher turnout than normal here this evening, and we all know the reasons why. We're going through a lot of decisions lately, and I need to start out by telling you that all the information that's coming in, it's been like drinking water from a fire hose with just all of the, not only information, but the changes in the information that happen regularly. It was a surprise to us that the governor announced that we would now be able to bring students back to in hybrid, of course, with the parameters. So it caused, needless to say, a lot of chatter, a lot of conversation throughout the state. I've been in meetings with not only the public education department, but other. Your mic is on, Ms. Hunt. Daly. So we've had meetings as recently as this morning, meeting with all the 89 superintendents plus the charter school leads, and there's, we're in similar challenges there, and not everybody has all the answers. I'd like to just start off with that. And this evening, as you know, we want to share a lot of information, as many facts as we can, to the school board. Of course, there's not a decision that's going to be made tonight, but the purpose of all of this is to get information out and get everybody to think about all of the information and work towards a solution. And I'd just like to also add that what I've sensed, not only here but other places, is that throughout the state today and this week, there's emotion and there's passion, and there are a lot of factors in making these big decisions that we've never made. But I believe we have a good team here. We have a good school board. We have good staff, great teachers, and the best students. So I'd like to propose that we work towards resolution in the best way that we can. So I'd like to begin with the premise that, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we have every school site that's going to give their thoughts, but I'd like to run through a few thoughts to kind of set the stage for this. We all believe, and I don't think there's anyone that I've ran into yet today or up to date that does not believe this. There's no substitute for in-person learning, even in a limited fashion such as the hybrid model. We also recognize that in-person learning also supports a student's social and emotional well-being. We also need to make it clear students and families that want to return hybrid would have the opportunity to return if the board so chooses that direction. Students and families that want to remain fully remote would continue with the current model. And we've made that commitment ever since March, and we continue to make the commitment that we will allow those students who choose to remain, families that choose to remain remote can continue to do so. A lot of the information includes that, as you saw when I saw the announcement on the news that February 8th was the day that students could return, I was already expecting that if we didn't get a handle on this, students are going to be lined up with their backpacks at the school sites on February 8th. And that's not necessary. There's a few other factors that we need to contend with as we move forward. So February 3rd through 17th, this is assuming that we have a decision made at the February 16th board meeting, and I know that we're going to discuss that later. Some of the things we have to do, the schools are there, ready. Safety walkthroughs have to be done at the fire inspector at the secondary schools. We've already done the elementaries. We need to verify the roster. We need to know how many students are coming in to each class, how many teachers will be there ready to receive them. And also another important thing is staff are receiving vaccinations available from a variety of sources. Here in Cibola County, we have the hospital, we have the Department of Health, and other sources. The vaccines are beginning to come out, and many of our staff have received those, are beginning to receive the vaccines. And I think in limited cases, maybe even both shots. If the board so chooses, on February 17th, we could begin. This is one possibility that we fully transition in, begin a Wednesday workday, because that's typically the day we don't have students anyway. We spend that day to do some work, groundwork, and notify families of the hybrid assignments. Another thing we have to do is increase our surveillance testing from 10% to 25% as required by the state. February 22nd is actually a day when, if we choose this route, all elementary schools move back to hybrid. Secondary schools will utilize their school site specific reentry plans, which are basically hybrid model not to exceed 50% of students. Protocols with students will be adjusted as needed. And we know that the NMAA sanctioned activities may begin on the 22nd. And there is factors around that. Right now, there's a requirement that we start hybrid for 2 weeks prior to beginning the sports activities. And that is still being debated as we speak between the governor's office and NMAA Selling Marcus. Building preparedness. We do have temperature kiosks being installed at every site. Portable plexiglass barriers, air filtration. We have one of the purchases for air filtration coming up on an action item. I want everybody to know that that's not, this is something new. We've always had the filters up to par. We've always had them up to the basic requirement that the state requires. But this is a new requirement that has just been dropped on us as the air filtration system. They're like portable air filters in all classrooms. They cover so much square footage. They did also send us some funds of around $128,000 to cover the cost of those, and that purchase, if approved tonight, will be ordered, and we believe that the supply is there and it should not take long to get those in the classrooms. We talked about a lot of this in the past. I'm not going to belabor it. Well, we have hand sanitizer, we have disinfectants, we have tape distancing markers, and our facilities folks are going to be checking to see that some of those markers that we had in the past might have been faded by now. but we have the EMIS fogging machines, protocols and procedures, and the disinfecting processes and the materials to do that with. We do have cloth masks. We've had them since March or April. At least 2 cloth masks for every student. And for adults, many people are choosing the paper masks. We do have gloves, disposable masks, face shields, and gowns available. Hand sanitizer, sanitizing wipes for every staff member as needed. Upgraded hand washing stations are being installed. All COVID safe practices will be implemented, including wearing masks, keeping correct social distance, and frequent hand washing, as we've heard and we continue to do. Teachers may be delivering instruction to students in person and online simultaneously. And I know that's brought up, and we know that's challenging, and it remains a challenge. We'll hear from the schools more on that probably here in a bit. Teachers, as you've seen the counselor just speak about, are going to be would like to emphasize. We would like the teachers to emphasize alongside the counselors to build up and utilize anything we know about social emotional learning during face-to-face instruction time, as was suggested by the counselors just previous to this. The New Mexico Public Ed restrictions for hybrid include quarantine protocols which could disrupt cohorts for up to 14 days. That remains in place. 4 rapid responses within a 14-day period calls for a 14-day closure. And we've done the hybrid before, and we know that that has impacted us back a few months ago. NMAA, New Mexico Athletics Activities Association, requirements participation include hybrid model, as I mentioned 2 weeks prior. Adherence to COVID safe practices. Masks will be required at 100% of all time for all sports. That includes cross country and football. Eligibility is based on first semester student grades. And I believe that's 1F and a 2.0 is the base. Spectator participation will be limited. We have not gotten a firm answer on if it's going to be 0, 25%, 50%, what is the spectator range going to be? So there's still information coming. Again, rapid response closures apply. Athletic decisions must be made by February 15th. So I know the decision for the board is made on the 16th. I would recommend that we put our name in there as a go. And that can always be changed, but I'd rather have our name on the list than to not be included, being that if we stick to our current schedule, that decision will be made on the 16th. So you got to keep in mind, it's not going to be business as usual. If or when we come back for sports, it is not going to be yesterday. Okay, it's not going to look like this. It's going to be very different. We're most likely going to have students on the field socially distancing, 6 feet apart on the bench, so on and so forth. I hope that people would understand that it's not just going back to yesterday. We still have a lot of restrictions and a lot of requirements that are going to be with us for a while. So next steps that we're doing, we're expanding vaccination opportunities for all staff to wish to receive the vaccinations. Our health department is working hard with the local medical people. We've offered to help in any way that we could with our nurses and health assistants, with the injections and with the record keeping, so we can do our part for the community there. Well, we want to ensure alignment between the New Mexico guidance document and our current school site plans and our reentry plan. We are working on updating that because of the numerous changes. So that'll be worked on here. And we must also, if we choose to begin, we have to complete the PED school safety plan checklist, which we reviewed this morning, and we believe that we'll be able to do that pretty efficiently and quickly. Air quality has always been a discussion. We do meet all the current alternative measures, as I mentioned, to be compliant, and we have. I think the base is at MERV 8 filters. We've been at a MERV 9 for quite some time. The only thing they've added the square footage air filtration systems that we are purchasing. Further upgrading air quality measures as outlined by PED. We're asked to run central air fans continuously, open dampers to increase airflow, open the windows and doors. Of course, we have to be logical about that, not if it's freezing outside. We must deploy those air purifiers with the HEPA filtration filters. So that is to give a context of some of the issues that we're facing as we move forward. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over, and I'd like for the board to hear directly from each school site. Now, I did ask the principals to be sure to make sure that we have the teachers' voices heard. We've heard a few here this evening, but I want to make sure that and I know that the principals have done this, is have discussions with their staff. Some have done surveys and so on and so forth. So with that, we've come to hearing from each of the school sites, so the board will have good, fresh data and information directly from the leaders at the schools. So if we could, I would like to begin with Mr. Miller, Blue Water Elementary. Are you on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Pettis. Mr. President, board members, at Blue Water and San Rafael, I've asked everyone involved in the school, it means cafeteria worker, the custodians, secretaries, and plus the teachers and the educational assistants. And at Blue Water, the number would like to go hybrid would be 7, and the others going virtual will be 10. And if I could, I know San Rafael is down there towards the bottom, but at San Rafael, there's 18 people went virtual, and I think the reasoning for that is right before Thanksgiving, there was 4 community members that passed away. They were all associated with COVID, so I think that pretty well makes that the virtual choice there at San Rafael. But the reasoning behind this is most teachers feel that the students have the virtual learning well enough to continue to the end of the school year. It is extremely hard to teach students in the classroom as well as online. 2 separate ways of teaching is pretty hard on the teachers, and so they think that's the reason why most of the majority is that way. We polled most of the parents, or I want to say a good number of the parents at both schools, and they're split about 52% virtual, 48% hybrid. And the reasoning is childcare. They'd like for the board to, everyone understands that you have protocols from the state you have to go by, but if the board elects to go like virtual, we're out till the end of the year. If we go hybrid, we stay hybrid till the end of the year. So everyone knows there's no going back and forth. And that's due kind of to the child care reasoning. So if we close the school and go out for 14 days, everyone knows we're coming back when that time period is over. And that going back and forth is also very stressful for the students, the parents, and the teachers. That's the reasoning the people that worked at the 2 schools gave to me. I also would like to stay virtual, and I'll tell you my vote out front. And the reasoning is I have some students and teachers with some medical conditions, and I don't want to put them in that shape to have to come back. And I know that's not the case. They can stay out and teach from their home, but I just had, that's kind of swayed my position personally. And also, like the kindergarten teacher, if the board members like to see a virtual classroom, if you haven't watched, I think one of us principals and a teacher can arrange that for you to see, because the knowledge that everyone's gained from March on the use of technology in education is I mean, it's night and day. So that's where the basic big good thing that have come out of this pandemic is the technology use in the classroom. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'd like to move on to Ms. Lisa Salazar for Cubero.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, and Mr. Perez and community members. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be a voice for my parents and staff members. My name is Lisa Salazar, and I'm the principal at Cubero in Cebolleta. My staff at both campuses at Cubero and Cebolleta are true professionals and will always do what's asked of them and keep students as a primary focus when making decisions and voicing our concerns. So I surveyed both our teachers and our family members at each campus. And from this survey, the following data, I'll report the following data. I will start off with our parent questionnaire. As we know, our parents are our voice and we want to know what's going on within our school communities. And at Cubero, I focused on two questions. The first question was, will you be sending your students to in-person learning if approved by GCCS Board of Education and can be as early as February 17th. I had 98 students that were represented in Cubero, and 52% were not sending their children back to school as early as February 17th. I had 29% that do want to return, and then 19% will return as soon as the village opens. At Cebolleta, the same question was, I had 69% of our students, they will not be sending their students back to school as early as February 17th. 25% do want to return, and 6% will return as soon as the village opens. The second question, I really wanted to get an idea of when our parents plan on returning their children back to in-person learning, and 52% want to keep their children virtual until the end of the school year. 29 want to send their children back in person as soon as possible, and 19 will remain virtual until the village opens. So now I'll move on to our teacher questionnaire. And I asked the teachers, would you choose to remain virtual or hybrid? And at Cubero, I have 75% of our teachers, 12 out of 16 teachers voted to stay virtual. And I have 25% that would like to return to our hybrid model, which is 4 out of 16. At Cebolleta, I have 83% of our teachers that would like to remain virtual, 5 out of 6, and then 17%, 1 out of 6 would like to return hybrid. And the concerns about returning hybrid were some of the same concerns that Mr. Miller had. Teachers and staff have not been given the vaccine was the number one concern. And I know that our numbers to return hybrid would be higher by our teachers if they felt protected with that vaccine. They also mentioned that students are asymptomatic carriers, and we do also have a high incident in our communities of COVID around our schools at this time. They are concerned about the increased transmission of mutant virus strains, which are transmitted easier than the original COVID virus. They've also indicated the interruption of instruction with the possibility of each exposure that we experience at our campuses. They've indicated that it is difficult to satisfy both virtual and hybrid, as it's been mentioned before. They also are concerned that not all students can return to hybrid. We have students that are in our villages that won't be able to come to school until those villages are open. And they feel that if we return, the students that have returned in the past, they feel that we'll see a little more of a new level of frustration from students because they've already been adjusted to our online platform. And they also feel that we have 12 weeks of school. They want to really monopolize on the platform that we have in place, provide consistency for our students. And so I'd like to thank you, Mr. Board Member President, board members, and Mr. Pettis. I also want to make sure that you do know that our staff is dedicated in providing an excellent education to our students and are true professionals that go above and beyond daily, and it's seen and it's exhibited daily after hours as well. And I know without a doubt our campuses and teachers and staff will be ready with whatever the decision is made by our board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salazar. Appreciate that. Next up is Laguna Acoma High School, Mr. Sanchez.
Good evening, Board President Ortiz, board members, Superintendent Pettis, and Cibolo County community members. Thank you for the opportunity to represent Laguna Acoma Junior Senior High School. My name is Mr. Sanchez. I am the principal. I have the privilege to be part of that school and to be part of that community. I recognize that the decision you make is not easy and is always in the best interest of the staff, students, of the community. We also recognize that we are Cibolo County Schools, and we are located on Laguna Acoma community, and their input is as important as the school boards. It is my understanding that tribal leaders continue to lock down many of their villages and have voted not to allow students to participate in athletics and any school site activities. We will continue to support their precautions they continue to take to protect their people. As a former coach, I can see the importance of athletics, but as a school leader, I recognize the bigger picture of academics, student health, and safety. I think working closely with the tribal leaders is important for our school specifically. They are working very hard to keep their people safe, and I want them to know that we support them in that. Last week, we conducted 2 surveys. The office staff made personal phone calls. We know that students will give the answer that they want, maybe not what the parent wants. So we made sure we made personal phone calls. We surveyed 80% of our parents. 56% of them want to remain virtual, while 44% want to stay at the hybrid model. I also surveyed the staff. 84 of the staff responded to the survey. 38% of the staff voted to stay in the hybrid model, or voted to go to the hybrid model. 62% said they want to remain virtual. Of that 62%, 13 said they would vote hybrid if teachers were vaccinated, which would change the hybrid vote to 73%. So as you can see, the biggest concern with teachers right now is the opportunity and the availability to get vaccinated. Now, we are working on that closely. I think by today, 50% of our staff is vaccinated, and by the end of next week, I think almost 75% of our staff will be vaccinated at Laguna Acoma High School. I just want to share with you a little bit of the plan. Should we be allowed to go hybrid? We do have a plan in place. I will briefly cover this plan because I don't want to take the time away from my colleagues. But what we plan to do is stay in the block schedule we are in now. In that block schedule, students are only go to 3 classes per day. Each class is a 2-hour block. That will do a couple things for us. If we have students on campus, they will only transfer classes 3 times, which will limit the activity or the movement around the school. It'll also allow for the students to clean the classroom before they go on to the next class. Students will be fed, and we will be fed lunch in their classrooms. The 2-hour block will allow time for sanitization to happen, and we won't cut out too much time from instruction. It'll be in two cohorts based on alphabetical order. We'd have a cohort would go on Monday and Tuesday. Second cohort would go on Thursday and Friday. The idea would be that a student that's face-to-face would have a virtual partner. So as they're face-to-face, they would log in with the virtual partner, and that virtual partner would be in the class with them. So this way they're collaborating with a student and not just the teacher. And that would allow for them to partner up with somebody. And then as the next cohort comes to school and the other partner is virtual, they will collaborate virtually that way as well. So that's part of what we would look at doing. Should we be allowed to go virtual? Wednesdays, teachers would have office hours for parent contact. They'd have a 2-hour block dedicated for students who are 100% virtual. So those students that are 100% virtual, they will have a 2-hour block time on Wednesday to collaborate with their teacher independently. That's the day that custodians will do deep sanitizing like they're doing at the elementaries. I hope this gives you kind of an idea of what our plan is and where the Laguna Acoma stands. Again, we recognize that, that this is a decision that comes from many different entities, the school board, the tribal leaders, and the community itself. We are doing the best we can. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes, but we are committed to give the students the best possible education we can. I want to thank you for the board. I want to thank you for your commitment to our students, our staff, and our community. And like I said before, this decision on your part is not easy. I told Mr. Pettis a pair of shoes that I would not want is his, but we will support you whatever you do. And Laguna Acoma staff will do whatever it takes based on whatever decision you guys make. And I appreciate all my colleagues, and I pray for each one of you for your health and safety of yourselves and your families. And with that, I will turn it over back to Mr. Pettis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanchez. I'd like to move on to Grants High School. Mr. Widener.
Good evening, Mr. Board President, board members, and Superintendent Pettis. Thank you for the opportunity tonight. This is the stance and proposal of the Grants High School staff. The staff of Grants High School is cautiously prepared to implement a 2-step hybrid education plan for reentry to school for pirate students. We ask that all families in the district understand that these are unprecedented times in education and that our return to school will not look like a regular return to school. GHS will continue to follow New Mexico Public Health guidelines as well as the guidelines approved and overseen by this school board. With board approval, we would like to implement a case-by-case consideration for small cohorts of students and families to access wireless and interventions on our campus to begin now with board approval. In the coming weeks, after the 80% of our staff who wish to receive vaccinations are vaccinated, we would then like to begin with a 50% of our population return to school, allowing students who wish to return to come to school face-to-face with instruction 25% of the time. All DHS students will remain virtual on lecture days on Mondays and Thursdays. All classes would remain virtual, adhering to our DHS virtual class schedule, and students would submit assignments in Google Classrooms. Students would be on campus for social and emotional interactions and a pilot return to normalcy. Students will still follow the virtual schedule, but will have access to their teachers while in classrooms. Wednesdays will continue to be devoted to one-to-one appointments and campus deep cleaning. A little bit of data about Grants High School. We currently have a staff of 102. That includes custodians, cafeteria workers, EAs, teachers, and everybody that's at our school. 62% of our staff are willing to return to work. They're willing to return to being with kids daily. There are 38% of our staff that do not wish to return without a vaccine. They do not want to come back because of lack of a vaccine. 9% of our staff, well, okay, so then you vaccinate people, 9% of our staff, then only 9% of our staff would be non-willing to return to face-to-face instruction. So with vaccination, 90% of our staff would return to school with kids daily. In looking at our student data, we have 354 of our 820 students that would like to return to school in a hybrid model. That's 43% of our student population. Keeping in mind that we have 14% of our students, 108 are Acoma students, 4% of our population are Laguna students, that's 27 students. And those students are not permitted to come to school physically at this time. There are 466 of our students 57% that wish to remain virtual. So there's 43% that would like to return in a hybrid model. And in looking at our schedule, our students would remain virtual and in their virtual classes. Mondays and Thursdays will be virtual lecture days. Tuesdays and Fridays will be on-campus days for the students, divided into groups. Tuesdays would be for 10th and 11th graders. Fridays would be for 9th and 12th graders. And that's how we would like to re-enter back to school. Thank you so much for listening tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Widener. Appreciate it. I'd like to move on to Los Alamitos Middle School. Mr. Artemio.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Pettis. Since the announcement a week ago, I've been working closely with my staff at Los Alamitos Middle School to collect information and data that we need to move forward to plan for a hybrid reentry. Like Mr. Pettis said earlier, we as a staff collectively and wholeheartedly believe that in-person learning is the most effective means of learning. If this vote to return hybrid would have come without the state canceling our vaccinations 2 weeks ago, I think the consensus would look a whole lot different, as stated by many other leaders before me. But currently, right now, we have 75% of our staff that would like to remain virtual. 25 would like to transition into a hybrid. And they would like to remain in the virtual setting for the continued health and safety concerns for the staff and the students. Some of the additional items that were shared in the survey that I collected from my staff was the secondary schedule is very different than an elementary schedule. And I had the chance to experience the elementary reentry and now planning for a secondary. And in the secondary setting, the schedule does not limit cross contamination or cross exposures as it does in an elementary setting. And it's going to lead to frequent opening and closings when we do have positive cases. For any learning model, another reason that was shared, and as a staff, this was almost a consensus, for any learning model, virtual or hybrid, to be successful, there needs to be consistency. And in the hybrid learning model, it leads way to some inconsistencies due to those exposures and the opening and closings of the different cohorts as we're planning. Over the past 4 days, my awesome staff has been attempting to reach 100% of our families to get a feel of where they're at on reentry. We currently reached 89% of our families. And of that, 52% of those responses have been opting to stay virtual. And the latter of it would be the 48% would like to come back into a hybrid setting. I do want to just touch base real quick. This is a conversation that my staff has shared. With sports being tied to reentry at this time, the outlook for middle school sports is very challenging at this time. My athletic director has been in contact with many of the schools that we participate on a normal basis without COVID, and many of them are still waiting their board's decision, but a lot of them are opting to only play schools within their own district, such as Rio Rancho middle schools will only play Rio Rancho. Same with Moriarty and Edgewood. So it's even if we do vote to go hybrid, I do want to share that middle school participation in MAA is going to be very challenging. Given that it will be the direction of the board, we at Los Alamitos Middle School, our staff is planning and preparing to implement a 2-cohort reentry, which would be cohort 1 would come into the school Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays would be closed for deep sanitation, and teachers will be on for interventions. And then on the latter Thursday and Friday, we would bring in cohort number 2. But as stated, even in this hybrid, if we do vote to go hybrid, school will not look as the traditional setting pre-COVID. But in our planning and preparation, we are utilizing the New Mexico Department of Health's protocols, the PED reentry guidelines, so that we can plan for a safe and structured reentry if that be the direction that the board takes. With that being said, I do want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Almeida. I'd like to move to Mesa View Elementary, Ms. Griego.
Good evening, Mr. President, board members, Mr. Pettis, and community members. So like every other school, we also did a survey with our parents and with our staff. So I'll go over our parents. All teachers called parents, contacted them in some way or form. We have 4 students from our 3Y that would like to return to school. Pre-K, we have 15 students. Kindergarten, 27 students. First grade, 26 students. Second grade, 29 students. Third grade, 20 students. Fourth grade, 29 students. Fifth grade, 28 students, and sixth grade, 18 students. Within that list, we have 26 students from special ed from K through 6 that would like to return. That brings us to a total of 196 students from Mesa View that would like to return to school. Our current enrollment is 441. Right now, based on those numbers and the classes, we have only one class that would have to do a and B cohort. But since we do not have computer labs, we've kind of have to cannibalize those and give those out to students. We have a room where we can put, do that one class and have all of those students come all 4 days. So I also did a teacher survey and asked the teachers if they would like to remain virtual or move on to a hybrid model. I have 11 teachers that said yes. I have 17 teachers that said no. And I have 3 teachers that respect the decision either way from the board, but they also still have some concerns about returning. Some common reasons against returning to a hybrid model are that the hybrid model that we once used before, it was difficult to implement and it was short-lived. Consistency is needed. Back and forth from virtual to hybrid has not been easy and was not easy for teachers. During that time, I had always told the staff, take home everything you need because you may not know if you will be teaching in your room in the morning. So it was not an easy thing to do. Staff that want to be vaccinated would like to receive both doses before students return. Another concern is we do have some staff members that have family members of their own that have compromised health issues. A couple of reasons that staff members have said that they would like to go to a hybrid model are engagement in a virtual learning platform has not been easy also. They also say students are missing the socialization. Accuracy of information such as assessments, packet work, or homework has not been true. And then there's an inability to address foundational skills of reading, writing, and math with our virtual interventions. Some more information is we have a number of staff who want the vaccine, and we also have a number of staff who have received the vaccine. Right now, we have 19 teachers that have received their first dose of the vaccine. We have 6 that are waiting for their first dose. We have one staff member, one teacher that has received both doses. And we also have 5 teachers that do not want to be vaccinated at all. All of our custodial and kitchen staff have received their first dose of the vaccine. We have 2 educational assistants that have received their first dose, 5 that are waiting on their first dose, and 3 educational assistants that also do not want to be vaccinated. All of our office staff have received their first dose of the vaccine, which includes our 2 secretaries, 1 educational EWS liaison, and myself. And we would also like to thank Ms. Hernandez with the coordination of getting our staff members vaccinated. We wait weekly for a call on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And she informs staff members if they are available and can make it to the vaccination site to get there as soon as possible. So we've been very fortunate with the help of Ms. Hernandez. A couple of other issues. Right now we have all of the students from kindergarten through 6th grade. They have all had a chance to come pick up a Chromebook. We received 398 Chromebooks at our school site. We have distributed, as of today, 300 of those Chromebooks. At present time, we have our pre-K students and our 3Y students will not be receiving a Chromebook until more come in from the district, but we have laptop computers to issue out to them so that everybody in our school site still has an opportunity to have a one-to-one device. We have 14 students that are still without internet, and they are doing packet work since the beginning of school till now. And I'd also like to mention that we have an average of 65 to 70 absences a day. So virtual learning versus hybrid learning, which we have had an opportunity to participate in. Both of them have some good things, and so both of them have some opportunity, some struggles. So I think right now our staff, we are just waiting on what the board's decision is, and I think we will move on from there. We do have a plan in place. We will follow our protocols that we had in place for our hybrid learning. And we are following the New Mexico Public Education Reentry Guidance and the toolkit. We will not have to change too many things, except for maybe doing the one class that will have to go to a cohort. And then we might have to have some of our students eat in the classrooms for lunch because we have to limit those numbers. But I've had those discussions with our custodial staff and our cafeteria staff, and we'll have them in the future with the teachers, and we will make plans as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Griego. I'd like to move to Early College High School. Dr. Eisenbart.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, Superintendent, members of the board, and community members. I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk about the reentry plan of Early College High School. As you know, Early College High School is only in its 2nd year of operation, so we only have 2 grade levels, grade 9 and grade 10. We have 12 students in grade 9, 21 in grade 10. And being a school that has less than 100 students, there are slightly different guidelines for smaller schools. I won't get into those differences because it really doesn't make that much difference. But in looking at our room capacity and our size, we are able to accommodate adequate distancing procedures and the guidelines that are set for small schools. So our reentry plan consists of only the grade 9 classes initially will have the opportunity to engage in face-to-face instruction, and they can remain at the school building all day, including lunch. Grade 9 students, obviously, as said before, if they opt to remain home, they can continue with 100% virtual learning and will be allowed to do so. The virtual classes will run concurrently with the face-to-face classes. And the reason not for grade 10 is that classes for grade 10 students are already on an online system. Grade 10 students are either taking online courses either through Early College High School and or New Mexico State University dual credit instruction. All grade 10 students have one or more dual credit classes with New Mexico State University, and New Mexico State dual credit classes will remain 100% virtual. So as far as our plan goes for the students who, if approved, or decided that we would go back to a hybrid model, the students will be separated into rooms following the room capacity and the reentry guidelines. There'll be a maximum of 6 students per classroom. Early College High School has 3 regular classrooms and 3 additional classrooms which we can use. During instructional time, all classrooms will employ the use of smart boards. So it will be interconnected with each other and connected virtually with the students that are on virtual learning. The students will be separated in separate rooms, and if needed, the instructor will float to different groups. So the students will remain in separate spaces. The instructor will float as needed. The Early College High School preference is to implement a hybrid learning design 5 days a week. We have 100% of our staff, that's 5 out of 5, willing to be on site for face-to-face instruction if everybody's vaccinated. Currently, we have 4 out of the 5 people who want a vaccination have received a vaccination. And that includes, so I would say, no, I have 3 out of the 4 of the staff who want a vaccination have received it. So we have 75% of our staff who want a vaccination received it. We just have 1 that still needs it, and we're working on that. When we polled the students and their families about the possibility of coming back to school on site, here are the responses. Out of the freshman students, out of the 12 freshman students, 5 said yes, 5 said no, and 2 were still unsure. They weren't sure. They just wanted to do some more research. So of the ones that responded with either a yes or no, it was about a 50-50 split about being willing to return. So to summarize, Early College feels that we are leaning toward, in favor toward, we are ready, and we have a plan to return to a hybrid learning model if the district and the school board gives us a green light to do so. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Eisenbart. I'd like to move to Milan Elementary, Ms. DeArmond.
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry that my camera freezes when I turn it on, and I don't want to put everyone through that. So I'm sorry, I'm going to have to give my information without my camera on. Good evening, Board President, board members, Superintendent Perez, staff members, and community. So Milan had our teachers, I want to start with when we had our first 16 days, we had a very successful time of it. We didn't have to do any shutting down until the very, very end because we received our 4th case. And so we had to close in a 2-week period. So we did have to close. 2 days later, the entire district did end up closing as well, just because of the number of cases. So, but the time we were there, it was very beneficial. The process worked very well. My staff, students, everybody did an amazing job. Each teacher phoned their own parents and polled each of their parents to see who would be returning. I'm pretty confident in saying we're about 94% of our entire student population of parents that were reached. There's just a few that we have a hard time getting a hold of. So for pre-K, we have 12 students who plan to return. Kindergarten, 32 students. First grade, 28 students. Second grade, 19 students. Third grade, 17 students. Fourth grade, 25 students. Fifth grade, 22 students. Sixth grade, 17 students. And special education students K through 6, we have 19 who have indicated they would like to return. So we have 191 students based on these calls teachers made just within the last few days out of 410. So that's 47% of our students who would like to return. The first time we went hybrid, all of our classes were able to come 4 days a week. Monday, Tuesday, they stayed off on Wednesday. Teachers had very structured assignments for them on Wednesdays. It was our deep clean day. And then Thursday, Friday, they returned. So we did not have to split into A and B cohorts. Currently, we have 2 classes with numbers that we may have to look into that. However, we have a plan and we would rather not have just 2 classes out of the entire school have to do 2 days a week, whereas the other kids could do all 4. And that is also very difficult for parents with students in multiple grade levels. Our teacher survey results are the following. I asked my teachers to justify their reasons, and they did so very well. Out of our teachers, we had 9 with a yes that would like to go hybrid, 14 with a no, 9 respect the decision either way, had some concerns and or misconceptions about returning. The common reasons against are still the fear of the virus, the consistency of being there for the rest of the year and not having to open, close, receiving the vaccine, family members with a compromised immune system, the new strain that is out, no guarantee that the students who really need to be there will return. And as many have stated, others are doing very well. Some common reasons for returning with students is student engagement, internet connectivity, and more recently, in the last couple of days, it's not been good at all. Kids learn better with their teachers. Different type of consistency of learning, which is daily with their teachers in person. Little to no parental support for kids at home, and that may be because they can't. Some parents have to go to work. Some children are left with the care of their grandparents. Much of the online learning is very difficult for those grandparents to monitor. Number of staff who want the vaccine have received it, and number who do not want it. Out of our entire staff, this is a representation of the entire staff, cooks, custodians, EAs, secretaries, everyone. 37 staff members want it. Out of that number, 21 staff have already received the first dose, and 6 have already received both doses. So out of that 37, 73% have already received 1 or both doses. We have 21 staff members who do not want to receive the vaccine. Some other issues, all students K to 6 have had the opportunity to pick up their Chromebook. 22 students have a Chromebook checked out to them, but have not picked it up. But this last week, we checked out over 331 Chromebooks to students. Pre-K students are the only group that do not have theirs yet. We are 5 Chromebooks short, but we will make up for that with returned laptops until the Chromebooks come in and we're able to get those out. And those pre-K will be getting theirs on Tuesday of next week. We have 10 students still without internet and on packet work, which we have dropped dramatically, the number that were on packets down to just the 10, but it is a struggle with the 10. Milan will do whatever. We've always pulled together as a staff. They're amazing. We are a very close-knit staff. Teamwork is the name of the game. Again, I have no doubt with whatever the board decides, we will pull together as a staff. And our motto is always finish strong, no matter what challenges we face. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bjarman. I'd like to move to Mr. Lang, Mount Taylor Elementary.
Good evening, Board President Ortiz, members of the board, Mr. Pettis, and GCCS community. I'm Steve Lang, principal of Mount Taylor Elementary, serving over 470 students, staff, and their families. Our teachers are unquestionably dedicated to their students and the mission and vision of our district. Again and again, they have shown incredible commitment, creativity, and adaptability. When asked to tell us what's good about remote learning, teachers gave some surprising responses. Here's what they wrote. The obvious, we're safer during this pandemic. Bullying, teasing, tattling is non-existent. To be mean, they would have to do it in front of the entire class, and that just doesn't happen. I can teach content instead of how to be good. In normal years, I never had this much communication or involvement with parents like I have seen this year. A full phonics lesson via text message so a parent could help their child understand. Parents investing in analog watches to help their children learn to tell time. Seeing parents helping students practice counting coins. So many great resources to make learning fun and engaging. It helps students become responsible for their own learning. This is huge. They own their learning in a whole new way because their learning is, quite literally, in their own hands. Oddly, I get to spend more one-on-one time with my students without distractions, schedule meet time, and give them one-on-one instruction when they ask for it. Students become technologically advanced and in an age where they must have those skills, and they learn them because they need those skills in the remote setting. They help me and other students when we need tech help. No wasted time walking in lines, waiting for a class to get quiet, fire drills, bathroom breaks, water breaks. Differentiation. If a student needs more help, I can give it. If a student is doing well on their own, they can keep moving without having to wait. I cannot believe the difference virtual teaching makes for differentiation. With GoGuardian, I can literally see what my students are doing on their devices. This is great for making sure they're on task and for helping when they need it. I can message them in the moment. I can see what's going on. This is incredibly helpful. I can meet virtually with parents at almost any time. No fights, no discipline referrals. Students enjoy breakout groups and they help each other be responsible with them. Students aren't afraid that other students can hear them or make fun of them. They can be more honest and thoughtful with each other and with me. Young students have become very tech savvy. They become more independent in logging in and completing assignments and working on the keyboard. We're achieving mastery at online teaching. I've learned how to integrate multiple online learning platforms, have made YouTube videos to teach young children in our community, held virtual family nights where families connect and learn together. I get a look inside my students' home life, their culture, and their background. My high-risk mother is safe while I can still do my job. I can teach, connect, and build relationships with each of my students with the peace of mind that I'm not bringing sickness into my own home. The best thing about virtual learning is that students, staff, and their families are safer during the pandemic. Members of the school board, surveys of our staff show that the majority here believe that until school employees are able to get the vaccine, we should prioritize safety and stability by continuing with remote instruction. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. And Mr. President, board members, I don't think I left anyone out. I hope not. Got all the schools. And that concludes the school site reentry proposals. and we are open for questions.
Board members, do we have any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Yes, Dr. Guy.
Mr. Wagner, is Mr. Wagner in there? High school, Grants High?
Yes, sir.
You said there were 108 Acoma students, 27 Laguna students. You didn't mention Navajo students?
I did not. As far as I know right now, the Navajo students could come to school if they could be bused.
How many students are there?
Navajo students?
Yes.
We have over 100 Navajo students.
Mr. Perez, would you verify that information that he stated? He stated that Navajo Nation is allowing Navajo students to be transported off reservation. Second question or inquiry is about sports. You didn't mention anything about sports.
I did not. I believe Mr. Pettis talked about sports when he started, and then Mrs. Jones also has been working with him closely on sports.
Okay. I did not hear much about Mr. Perez regarding attendance, rates of attendance, or withdrawal of students.
Even nothing about the well-being emotionally of any students. I hadn't heard one thing mentioned pertaining to the students.
I can put that presentation together. We didn't come prepared for outside of the counselors and the health and the nurses presenting their strategies and what they're doing for those social emotional issues. I did not come prepared with any exact numbers. I would have to do some research and bring that back to you.
A lot of good valid points, a lot of good issues. If possible, what would be the soonest to go back to school if we chose?
Mr. President, Board, Mr. Sandoval, the earliest that the state is allowing is February 8th.
How about as a district, if we pushed to move it past the 8th, though?
As you see, we're suggesting the day after the next board meeting would be February 17th. A couple of issues there I'd like to just pull out. Positive and a consequential. So if we propose to move into a hybrid model, we must remain in a hybrid model for 2 weeks prior to sports beginning. That's the way the ruling is right now today. There's still discussion about that. The positive about waiting for a while without starting immediately is we have an opportunity to get more teachers and staff vaccinated before we bring the students in.
Okay, I thank you. If you don't mind, Mr. President. Following up on Dion's concern about SELs, we need to if there are issues, we need to know the extent to which there are issues. And we haven't heard any data with respect to any students having, any teachers reporting students having any emotional issues or social emotional issues that that needed attention by counselors or other professional staff, nor any indications of suicidal tendencies. We haven't heard that. And appreciate the work that the counselors are doing. We just needed the data too, and that's pretty critical. When it comes to the sports aspect of it, that is one of the issues that the adolescents of our school system are deserving of an opportunity to participate in these kinds of things. Apparently the governor felt that it was okay for schools throughout the district to reconsider having students participate. Mr. President, I Mr. Pettis, I'm really confused as to the how this is supposed to occur, because it's not fair the way the statement came down from the state and from the governor about how to do this. And the other point I was just thinking about is I'm not sure how many teachers overall data-wise are vaccinated and not vaccinated. I've heard some of the principals comment on that, and it's really hard to follow unless you were taking notes, and I was trying to take my notes here on that. But what I gather is that teachers by and large is it my understanding that most of the teachers are saying that they're willing to consider hybrid if they are vaccinated? Mr. Pettis.
You know, Dr. Archambault, I learned a lot this evening in listening to the school sites, because I asked them to be authentic and talk to the school teachers and the counselors and everybody at the school. So a lot of this information was not shared with me until this evening, but that was intentional. So what I'm gathering based on this evening's discussion is yes, and that's been my concern, and that's been my discussions with other people and other colleagues throughout the week, is you've seen how the numbers change, especially like at Grants High School, for example. 30% are not willing to come back, but if you throw in the vaccination factor, that number moves to 90%. So yes, I think it was pretty clear that the vaccinations plays a major factor in the teacher's decision on returning to the classroom.
What's the estimated time to get everybody that wants to be vaccinated?
Right now, that's hard to tell, because as you know, we had it set up here at the high school, as mentioned here earlier, 2 weeks ago. We had 370 staff members ready, set. We had the furniture, drive-through equipment. We were completely set up for 370 vaccinations. And at the final hour, we were told that the supply wasn't there. So then we went back. That didn't happen. So since that time, I was pleased to see that there's been a variety of people just finding different ways to get the vaccine. At every school site, you probably have different people, part of different groups. I think we probably have at least 370 people that were registered or are registered to get the vaccine. Now, it seems like the Department of Health over at the Armory, they have a pretty consistent row of people lined up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We know that we're getting extra vaccines from Laguna that come this way if they have extra there. I did talk to the emergency command here, and I came right out and asked, I said, is a supply a problem? And they said, no, the supply is not a problem. I think it's a matter of organizing their strategy to get our people in line, organized. So I have to tell you, I called the governor's office myself angry because I was seeing other districts moving along with the vaccine. I've talked to local legislators. I'll let them know that that is our number one need right now during these last couple of weeks. So they promised that they would take that to the governor and decision makers. Since that time, and that was about a week ago or less, starting to see some progress. As you hear, there's several teachers that have been vaccinated with at least their first vaccine. There are very few that are on their second vaccine, but starting to see some movement. I think it was mentioned too, I think by Mr. Armillo, that if we could have stood fast with our, would have, could have, should have, but if we would have gotten those 370 vaccinations on time, we would have had 370 on their second round coming up here right around now. And so that was unforeseen. And we're having to deal with these types of ongoing, unexpected challenges as we move forward. I would love to say to the board, everybody who wanted a vaccine has it, both doses, and we're ready to roll. Unfortunately, we can't say that.
Max, what's the total number of employees for the district?
About 550, Mr. Sandoval.
So over half, almost 3/4, have agreed to take the vaccine.
Yes.
Does that also include the ancillary staff, like maintenance people and stuff, the 550?
Yes, it's a little over 550, but that includes ancillary staff. It includes our community coaches, anybody who's affiliated or employed, contracted with the district in any way.
Okay, I have a number of questions, of course. You know me, I always have questions. I didn't hear any data, and because this has happened in the past, and some of the other principals mentioned this, that how many times during the time that we went hybrid did our schools get a positive case and have to close? One principal mentioned that they had the 4 rapid responses. So I know just of this recent one where a maintenance was tested positive, or somebody in that area. And so the district office had to shut down. When we're talking about vaccinations, we're not just talking about our teachers, because we have our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, our janitors, our maintenance people. They all go into our school buildings. So we're not just looking at just vaccinating teachers solely. We need to have all the staff vaccinated. And if you read the news, even if we are vaccinated, there's no 100% cure or assurance that we're not going to be asymptomatic carriers. If you just listen to the latest news, our roundhouse in Santa Fe had 6, and they had to close down and go virtual sessions. Our Congress people in Washington, I heard just latest was there's 4 now that were having to, and yet they had received both vaccines, both shots, and yet they became, they contracted the virus. And so those are all some of the things that we also have to consider. The other one that I'd like for you to do, since it's kind of hard to keep track of all the percentage that we're giving by all the schools. And I'm looking at Dr. Martin to do this for us, to come up with a total percentage of those that want to go hybrid, of all the staff, all the staff, that want to go hybrid and all the staff that want to stay virtual. And so I'd like to see those percentages, as well as a total for all the percentages of students that want to go hybrid and want to stay virtual, and parents as well. I said, I think I need to see a total percentage count for our GCCS community. So that gives me a better idea of where we're at. And as well as those percentages of how many times we had to close down. And because some of the teachers did mention this, that it was awfully difficult to be hybrid and then get a positive exposure and then have to shut down. And so that puts a lot of stress not only on the teachers, but on the students and the parents, because the parents are having to juggle their work schedule and their daycare around that. So all of this are areas that we need to look at. And let's see, district-wide percentage 550. And as far as the emotional issues, that I appreciate the counselors being able to do that, but we can't reach 100% of the kids to discuss emotional issues, emotional social issues. And so it's good, like that Mr. Sandoval asked for a percentage of that if we're realizing any cases like that. I was thankful for Mr. Lane, where he mentioned, because I never thought of that, where there's no bullying. There's no, you don't have to dress a certain way. And so I never thought of that as an issue, that where our students feel more comfortable at home than they ever did at school. And so, bet you if you did a survey on how many kids have been bullied, that would almost be nil. And so thank you, Mr. Lane. I appreciate for you bringing up those issues, things that I had never considered either.
Thank you. Ms. Sund, I'd like to just respond quickly so I can open up for other questions. But I want to kind of go back to the question about the number of social emotional issues and suicidal. That is very, we take that very seriously. When one of the board meetings, I heard that there were 6 students that were struggling with those types of things. I want you to know that I did personally call principals and counselors to get a feel for where those students are at. Out of everyone I talked to, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but the students that were having those type of social emotional issues were being tended to. I did not find a single student that was not, that we knew about, that was not where the issues were not being addressed. And I'm not saying that don't exist, but that's what I found on that day. I just also want to comfort you, Ms. Daly, in the fact that the bus drivers and the cooks have been first priority with us, and Ms. Hernandez has been looking at getting them vaccinated first and foremost. As of I think yesterday, I think we're missing 1 or 2, but for the most part, all of our bus drivers and cooks who want the vaccine have received it. The percentage of staff that wish to return, the last survey that we did is still pretty fresh. We considered putting out another survey, but we don't want to burn the community out on having survey after survey. So, but we do have that survey information available. And if it's the board's wishes, I will do another survey to get more current data. And I can also tell you that that does change. Mm-hmm. You know, when we had the pre-hybrid last round, it was one direction. When we moved into hybrid, we got a survey the other direction. So that pendulum swings. You know, as you can see this evening, it leans a little bit towards the remaining remote. If I was reading all the conversations correctly, but I would anticipate that would change also as time goes on. So it's it's an elusive thing to get solid numbers and just say this is what the number is. But we continue to work on that. One thing you brought up, Ms. Hunt, is that I noticed that the students, the high school, some students were surveyed. We probably could survey all of the high school students and mid-school students. I think that's something that we haven't done as a district, and I'd be glad to get that information to you all.
And that's one thing I was going to say, Max. You know, I haven't heard not one thing, you know, yeah, they're kids, you know, parents know best, but what do the students want? You know, whether it's high school, junior high, they're at that age, they know what they want, they know what they need. You know, and as for that survey, I think, what was there, 500, 600 that participated in it? For as big as our county and our district is, I really wasn't happy with the numbers.
I also think, Mr. Pettis, that you have some good data right there, because each school site provided the percentages of the teachers that wanted to go hybrid, and the ones that wanted to remain virtual. If somebody would just add those up for us, then we could come up with a total percentage, as well as the students. I know the elementary teachers did a good job at surveying their kids, especially the kindergarten group, the number of their kids that wanted to come back hybrid and those that wanted to stay. So I appreciate them going to those great depths to get that information. But of course, you know, their young age, that could also change with what their parents feel too as well. But you have some good data over there that I think need to be added up, because the administrators at each school site went to great lengths to get this data for us, percentages of how many wanted to come back, how many wanted to stay virtual. So we shouldn't waste those numbers. We should use them somehow and come up with total figures so that we can give credit to the work they did. Because I know these surveys and calling parents and asking staff to fill out the surveys and stuff, that's hard work. And you're right, that I don't know if another survey would do any good. Our community might be surveyed out, but we've already got some good data and numbers that each of the principals have provided for us. So I think we can utilize those numbers as well.
Yes, and I'll be glad to do that, is to pull that all those numbers together and compile that information and get it back to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. Ortiz, if I can.
Yes, Mr. Jones, go ahead.
First of all, thanks for all the staff that have compiled all of this. We have a community member that's got her hand up, and I'd love to hear from her. But I'll say my little spiel here, and everybody. I mean, I won't go through the whole thing again. Everybody knows that I think we should have never left school. I think we should be in school 100%. I will encourage all the board members to put the time in and do some data finding. Not what you hear on the news, not what gossip is on the deal, on sheer data. Because everything I have found is they can't trace almost nothing from the school, from the teacher to the student, student to the teacher, student to faculty. I mean, the states that are back in full swing, the numbers are just not there. There's not a big rise. There's not a big, the states that are open or have the same numbers of the states that are closed. So I encourage you, not just board members, go look at the stats, just spend some time. I've spent a lot of time, but I'm going to also, and I know all you board members get calls from your constituents and parents, but I've been getting calls from students. Please, Mr. Jones, we want to play. We want to play volleyball, or we want to play soccer. We want to play football. Please, I get calls from parents. Hey, my kid is a senior, and this is his last shot or her last shot at going and getting on. You know what I mean? Going on forward. They want a shot at school. I mean, it's either that or let's bail on it and start in August. and let them all do it again, because I don't think we're servicing these kids' needs. And can appreciate very much the one-on-one talking that the teachers are getting through a virtual class. And in my opinion, the hybrid class is way harder on the teachers. That's why I think we should all come back. I mean, a hybrid situation is they're worried about the ones at home and the ones at school. But all of you all know, sometimes school is the safest place for these kids, for these students. It's a place where they're for sure fed. They're for sure taken care of. It's a for sure safe environment for them. It is great news that we're going on with some social emotional outreach. Thank goodness, because let me tell you, this is an emotional time, and it's a hardship for a lot of these students. I mean, and I've already said this, if my kids were here in high school, I'd already moved. I would have had them in somewhere where they have an opportunity to go succeed instead of sitting at home. I just, it scares me, the opportunities these kids have missed since we haven't been in school since last March. And in my opinion, it's our job is to give these kids the best opportunities they can have. I mean, athletics is something that's the only reason some of those kids go to school is so they can play. And so they can, and I shouldn't say just athletics, extracurricular activities. I mean, athletics go a long ways, but so does band, so does drama, so much of that is social learning, and so does so good for those students past high school that we're just not giving them the shot. And for all the teachers out there that I want just 100% want to stay virtual, man, I urge you to think about, let me tell you, they can teach thousands of kids virtually and do with a lot less teachers. I don't understand how they don't think that way. Not that they're not great teachers, but I mean, it all comes down to the facts at the end. And I mean, you could teach thousands virtually just as easy as you can teach 30 or 50 or a whole high school. I just want us to give every opportunity to these kids we can. And I don't think we've done that. I mean, if it was up to me, we'd have a special meeting on Friday, vote for it, and start on Monday when the governor says we can. That's all. And I would like to hear from, I know we have some community members. I can see their hand raised. We've heard from the staff. We've heard from the board members. The community members ought to be able to speak in. This is a discussion for reentry. I'd love to hear from them. And I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. President and Mr. Perez, what kind of a meeting is this? Is this I thought this is a regular meeting.
This is a regular meeting, and I believe that we won't be able to hear from our constituents because it is a regular board meeting. If they speak to the board, they should have been on the hold on a second. On citizens to address the board. And so I think, Mr. Jones, that at this time, we won't be able to let them speak because it is a regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, I agree with you, but we put it on there as a discussion item, correct?
Yes, sir.
It says discussion it doesn't say a board discussion. It says a discussion, and that's why we did it that way. I believe, if I'm out of bounds, I'm sorry, but we did put that on there as a discussion, and the citizens to address the board is not part of the discussion.
Okay, on the presentations, Mr. Jones, it doesn't say discussion, just for clarity. So at this time, I don't think that we could let community members speak. Am I correct, Mr. Perez?
Yeah, if it doesn't say discussion, yeah, I did ask for it to say discussion on there. So I'm sorry for me not clarifying that, but I did ask for it to say discussion on there. So I didn't mean to be out of bounds. I just would like to hear from everybody.
Okay, no problem. And we would too. We'd like to hear from them, and we apologize for that. So
just for clarity, it says school site reentry proposals. is the way it's stated.
So my next I'm going to ask you, next time I ask for discussion, let's please put that on there.
I don't, okay, yes, sir.
And that was my fault on that, Richard, so I apologize.
Well, Mr. President and Mr. Perez, and let's just make sure we're clear as to who's going to be involved in any discussion. If it just says discussion, then it still leaves it up to us to try to figure that out. We should be able to state it a little more clearly as to whether or not we want to have others besides those who have been identified to speak. Parents and the public don't have always an opportunity to address these issues. And if we're going to do this, we just need to make sure that they understand that they may have an opportunity in the future by the way in which we describe the item in the agenda as what Mr. Jones is trying to is expressing an interest in.
Mr. President, Board, you know what? I know we had a work session recently, and just from my understanding, as a work session is more open for discussion, which we did allow dialogue between the public and the board. And then a regular board meeting, I understood, the way I understood, and I apologize if I'm wrong, that people can get on citizens to address the board, or they can actually become part of the agenda as if requested through the board president, and we can bring that on.
Mr. Ortiz, I have one last comment. And Max, you know, to me, student input is very important. How hard would it be to create a survey for students and possibly make it as an assignment and see what they have to say?
No, that's very doable, Mr. President, Mr. Sandoval, and I'd be happy to get that out.
Possibly make it as a, as a grade, just to hear from the students. I just think it'd be very interesting.
Will do.
Hey, just one last comment. I'd like to give a shout out to a number of students that did call me, and there were several of them, and they're wanting to come back to school. And I want to give them a shout out for reaching out to me, and also they reached out to Mr. Jones, and I'm sure they've reached out to the rest of you board members. There's not always a perfect answer to what we're doing, but there's no handbook for direction. We'll always have issues, viruses, plagues, the history. We've always seen all these different things come about, and as Americans, we've always come out on top, so I just want to let all of us know as board members, let's be smart about what we do for our students. And I really believe our students need the best education, and I think that we have robbed them from that. And it's not our fault. I believe, and I understand what Mr. Jones is saying, and I agree with him. Let's just be smart about the decision that we make for our students, our teachers. Let's take the vaccination into consideration. And those are my comments as a board president.
Mr. President, board, if I could just, I need to make a point of clarification because I don't want the public to feel that it was the administrator and our administration's decision or the board's decision with secondary students. Since March, we have not been allowed to bring any students back to school, even if we wanted to, from grade 7 through 12. That just hasn't been allowed until just the other day. And then, so we just realized that now we are able to bring our 7th through 12th grade students into class if the board decides that on or after February 8th. But up to this point, we have not we have not been able to entertain that decision. So just for clarity, thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move to executive session. Pending litigation, discussion of pending or threatened litigation pursuant to section 10-15H7 of the Open Meetings Act regarding the pending lawsuit filed against the school district defended by NMPSIA and the tort claim for the case. Roll call. I need a motion, I'm sorry, to go into executive session first.
So move.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Yes.
John Sandoval,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Emily,
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay, we got you, Emily.
Dr. Guy,
yes. What time?
7:41.
Can make a note of that. 5 minutes?
Yes, sir. 5 minutes, and you got the link to enter the next.
Would you tell the public that we're going to go into executive session, that they may, if they wish to, they can leave?
The board will go into executive session. Anybody that's online with us, you're welcome to stay. If not, you can Zoom out. And have a good night. Thanks for being with us.
Email, come on. Where is it? PSA, my drive. Okay. Come to Chrome when you want that email.
Good.
Okay, the board is going to come out of closed session and reconvene. Discussion of pending or threatened litigation pursuant to section 10-15-1 H7 of the Open Meetings Act regarding the pending lawsuit filed against the school district defended by NMPSIA and the tort claim for the case, and no action was taken. Roll call.
Motion.
Oh, I need a motion to reconvene, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Okay, who's?
Dion.
Or I second, one or the other.
I'll say,
Okay, roll call?
Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
yes.
John Sandoval,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Dr. Guy Shambo.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Action items, Superintendent Perez, where we at?
Yeah, so Mr. President, board members, the first action item is consideration approval of a 505 portable, 505 portable air purifiers to be placed in schools as per the New Mexico Public Education Department requirements and specifications. I do recommend approval of this action item as stated.
Okay, we need a motion.
So move.
Need a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, the next action item, TBK Bank. Mr.
Okay,
Perez, your
yes, sir,
recommendation.
Mr. President, Board. Next action item is consideration of approval to open an account at TBK Bank. I do recommend that we approve this action item.
Okay, need a motion?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Sandoval, need a second?
Second.
Did you second that, Dr. Guy?
Yeah.
Okay, all in
Yes.
favor? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda, Superintendent Perez, your recommendation.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, I do recommend that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, need a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Guy, need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Jones, all in favor? Say aye.
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 Okay, Superintendent's report. Mr.
Yes,
Perez.
sir, Mr. President, Board. So there's a lot going on, as you would expect at the beginning of the legislative session. One of the things I just found interesting is that it looks like the bill to open up the permanent fund to support early childhood across the state is moving forward. There's always two sides to that. It's a big deal. At the Roundhouse, that's one, and there's a couple of other bills that are out. One that involves K-5 plus and extended learning time that I will be following and bringing that information back to the board.
Well, it should be looking. I told you. Oh, earlier I was messaging.
Richard Jones
Okay.
kept on mute.
I think that's it.
It's not me. Can you guys hear? I can't hear anything.
I can't hear anything either. Hello?
Neither can I.
Well, I can hear you guys,
I can hear you guys, that's it.
but I can't hear anybody in the boardroom.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
And now I can hear you. Everything went quiet.
Yeah, I think somebody muted us all. So we're back on.
That was on purpose.
Yeah. So let me start again. A public school capital outlay met in their regular meeting last Saturday. Mr. Vance Lee and myself participated in that meeting as we were on the agenda to discuss Blue Water Elementary School and the square footage there. We've been doing a lot of background work leading up to this meeting. Mr. Lee has been meeting with the committees for the design of the Blue Water Elementary School. In the midst of that, we've gone back and forth. The original school was over 22,000 square feet. It dropped down to the new building being in the 14,000 range, with a lot of back and forth and support from a few legislators. We were able to get back on to speak about moving the school closer to its original size. So we were pushing for, and we continue to push for 120 students. That was a hard uphill battle because the enrollment is down to 67 students. We're fighting for 120 students. It was a hard fight because that's almost doubling what the number of students that we have there currently. I did make the argument that we're in a strange world now. We have plants closing, we have COVID. So I brought up every argument that we can possibly make. And we were able to get the number of students from, I believe they were proposing 90, in the 90s. Mr. Lee was about 90 students. We were pushing for 120 and we landed at 102 students, the square footage to match 102 students. You want to go ahead and fill in what I left out there, Mr. Lee?
No, I would say, Max, Mr. Perez, you did a great job on Saturday. We had a good plan going in, and the PSFA has they have a set of guidelines that we have to follow, and it's based on past enrollment, current enrollment, and future enrollment. And I think we're at this point we're in a good place where we can move forward with design and try to come up with a great design for the Blue Water community. So.
And Mr. President, Board, that's just wanted to give you an update on that. We are moving forward with continued discussions, and it looks like all arrows are pointing to yes. As far as moving forward with the building, we're still pushing from 102 to 120. We still have that opportunity. We left that door open in working with Jonathan Chamberlain with the PSFA. So we're making some headway. Not where we want to be, but we're getting there. Much better place than we were a few months ago.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Board comments. Emily Hunt, any comments?
Don't have board comments on here. But you can.
I'm muted. No, I have no comments.
Okay, good. Dr. Guy?
Thanks a lot, Rich.
No problem. Dr. Guy? That probably means
No comments.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Guy. Dion Sandoval?
No comments.
Mr. Jones? Are you there, Richard?
I'm here. I'll be really brief. Just let everybody know Gallup is going back to school January or February 9th.
Okay.
Okay, Ron Ortiz, no comments.
But thank you guys.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Announcements, they're there for your reading. Future agenda items, if you have any, get with me or Mr. Perez. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second, all in favor?
aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes,
how come when they said no comments, you didn't say good to them? You only said it was when you asked me and I said none and you said good.
because I like you the most.
Good
Hey,
night.
Max.
Yeah,
Hey, what company got the HIPAA filters?
what company?
Yeah, what company was awarded the?
Advance,
Diego?
Advance
No.
is here, Advance, you still on? I think you might have signed up.
Granger and TLC.
Granger and TLC.
Ranger and TLC?
There was 3 bidders, and I think we might have with Granger's.
Well, I think TLC.
No, there were 4 bidders, and TLC was the lowest bidder on those units.
Okay, so TLC?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
And so just so you know, that went, I don't know if you can discuss it any further, but
I'm sorry.
the cost was really high. And as Mr. Lee worked through it, we reduced it from like 800 and some thousand down to the 100 and some thousand. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks. Appreciate it. Sorry about that.
Man, we're, okay, I'll keep my comment. Bye.
Bye.
Permission to end the meeting, Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.